These stupid supply chains that are all over the world, we have a supply chain where they're made in all different parts of the world, and one little piece of the world goes bad and the whole thing is messed up. I said, we shouldn't have supply chains. We should have them all in the United States. We have the companies to do it, and if we don't, we can do that.
Joining me now is White House Trade Advisor Peter Navarro, and you know quite a bit about all of this equipment. Thank you for joining me today on the program.
Good afternoon, Harris. And yes, indeed, we can make this in America. President Trump's been talking about this since June in Pennsylvania in 2016 as a candidate. Bring this stuff home, and that's what we're going to do. I find it, Harris, I find it highly ironic that you've got Bright up there on Capitol Hill issuing these dire warnings on the very day President Trump is going to the beautiful Lehigh Valley to announce a tougher, smarter, more resilient strategic national stockpile. I call it the SNS 2.0. And what it's going to be is it's going to be a bigger stockpile that's spread not just in FEMA warehouses, but across distribution centers like Owens and Minor in the Lehigh Valley. It's the point of care. Hospitals are going to carry more inventory. And as we bring our supply chains and production home, our factories are going to have reserve capacity that can quickly ramp up to meet our demand. So we're getting ready in Trump time with all due speed in case we have a second wave in the fall. And I thought Bright's sky is falling warnings really weren't comporting with reality, boots on the ground.
Peter, you brought it up. Let's show the viewers what you're talking about, and then I'll get your reaction. Here's Dr. Bright from today.
I'll never forget the emails I received from Mike Bowen and indicating that our mask supply or N95 respirator supply was completely decimated. And he said, we're in deep, the world is, and we need to act. And I pushed that forward to the highest levels I could in HHS and got no response.
Peter?
You sure got a response from the White House. From the day President Trump banned the flights from China on January 30th, this White House was off and running on 3 different vectors of attack. A horse race for vaccine development, the rapid development of therapeutics like remdesivir, and the rapid production of things like N95 masks. And from that point to today, we've had great progress on all 3 of those fronts, including the addition of over 2 billion masks capacity in this country in a year. And so here's the thing. If you listen carefully to the Bright testimony and his complaint, there's 2 things that I think he's not just a disgruntled employee in my judgment, he's a deserter in the war on the China virus. Why do I say that? Those are harsh words. He had a chance. He was asked to go over to NIH and lead a $1 billion initiative to get testing to the people of America, and he refused to do that. I'm a conscript in this army, and before the virus hit, I was doing trade deals and trying to bring manufacturing home. We should be doing what we're doing. Now, here's the other thing, Harris. This is really interesting about the Bright complaint. If you look at it very carefully.
All right, and then I want to talk about China. We got to get to it.
He's complaining basically that he knew it all and we weren't doing anything. Well, guess what? From February 2nd, when I exchanged some emails with him and had him over to this office and we worked with HHS, we were able to accelerate all of these things, vaccine development, therapeutics, and masks on behalf of this White House, at the direction of this White House. And so the idea that this White House wasn't moving as fast as it could from January 30th, when the president took that courageous decision. So this is politics. This is a disgruntled Obama employee on the Hill and a shoe. When I hear her talk about blaming the Trump administration and letting China off the hook for bringing this pandemic down, this plague.
That's where I want to go.
That's wrong.
Let's scoot to that. And by the way, the HHS Secretary Azar was with the president just a short time ago before they were headed to Pennsylvania and said some of the same things about what some of those meetings with Dr. Bright were like. And he's on the Hill testifying his version right now. Let's get to this. Tensions between the U.S. and China. Peter, they are growing over COVID-19. The president says Beijing cannot use the pandemic as an excuse to walk away from their phase 1 trade deal. Let's watch that together.
They'd like to renegotiate the deal. We're not going to renegotiate. Look, I'm not happy about anything having to do with that particular subject right now.
Have you spoken to Xi Jinping?
I have a very good relationship, but right now, I don't want to speak to him.
Peter Navarro, the president doesn't want to talk with China's president. What's happening?
Well, let's go through the timeline. November, China spawns the virus, probably in that weapons lab in Wuhan, hides the virus for 2 months behind the shield of the World Health Organization. As it does this, according to their own data, they vacuumed up all of the PPE across the world, including from here, basically hoarded it, kept it from our doctors and nurses in Milan and New York and everywhere in between, killing people because of that. And then afterwards, they basically profiteering now from it. And here's what frosts me, Harris. This should frost every American. Right now, the hackers from the Chinese government are trying to steal the vaccine information so they can make it first. And they
so,
can
Peter, what are we going to do about
it? In terms of manufacturing, well, what are we going to do about it? What we need to do right now, and what I'm focused on, is making sure that we make stuff in America. This is the jobs president, the manufacturing president, the innovation president, and the onshoring president. Harris, this is a wake-up call.
And that president is landing
bring this home
right now. And forgive me, it's hard with the delay. I don't mean to be impolite to cut in, but I want the audience to look at the screen. The president now has arrived in Allentown, Pennsylvania. You know, this is a point, too, where there are jobs at that plant. I mean, people are at that distribution center, Peter, and they have jobs. And the president has had a tough week with regard to that, as we have some 36 million who've now, in the past few weeks, applied for unemployment. As the president pulls into view here in Allentown, Pennsylvania, to go visit that distribution center that is bringing PPE from overseas to the United States, just talk with me, if you can, about where we are with this economy and what is next. And trade was your area of expertise, the economy too. The president now on the ground and Air Force One.
Yeah, let's make it clear that that distribution center is bringing in masks and PPE also now made in America. We've stood up 2 N95 mask plants in 5 weeks in Rhode Island and Arizona. We've got the National Council of Textile Organizations bringing together companies like Hanes, Fruit of the Loom, Parkdale Mills. They're making gowns, masks, and all of that. We are bringing that home. That distribution center not only is employing people in Pennsylvania by distributing that PPE, it's going to help workers be able to work safely in workplaces, doctors and nurses work safely to protect the people. And that's what we have to do. You asked the question, what do we do going forward? We have to move from a service sector economy. We're going to lose some of that in this pandemic to a manufacturing economy. And that's what this president is focused on. This will be the manufacturing jobs president. We're going to make it here. We're going to bring those supply chains here home, not just for pharmaceuticals, not just for medical supplies and equipment. It's going to be for everything. And we are going to prosper and grow. And let me say one last thing, if I have a minute.
All right.
17 days in Kokomo, Indiana was the miracle that points to America's future. What was it? GM, a big company, working with Ventec, a ventilator company. Boom, they made ventilators in 17 days through American innovation. That's America's future. Jobs, jobs, jobs under President Trump.
All right, let's stop there. I'm going to have you back if you will join me again on another day, and let's talk more. The president on the ground in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Glad you were with me, Peter, as this was happening, because that is your lane, knowing what is going on with the nation's stockpile, so on and so forth. Thanks for bringing the news on that today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Harris.